Several business groups take back their support on amending economic provisions in the Constitution. These groups include Finex, the Makati Business Club, the Justice Reform Initiative, the Philippine Women's Economic Network, the Filipina CEO Circle, and the Women Business Council Philippines. Let's find out why from Justice Reform Initiative Chairman and former Finex President Francis Lim. Francis, thank you so much for joining us. According to one congressman, your groups are flip-flopping on whether or not to rewrite the Constitution, especially the restrictive economic provisions. So what is the final stand right now of the Justice Reform Initiative?
I think you're referring to my friend Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. No? I read his statement, and he was basically saying that two major business groups, Finex, the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, and the MBC are flip-flopping on the issue of amending the economic provisions of the Constitution. I really don't know where my good friend is coming from, because both groups have always said in the past as now that there's a need to amend the economic provisions of the Constitution.
So, Mr. Lim,
even in our last...
So, Mr. Lim, why not amend the Constitution now?
Okay. Yeah, Finex, together with MBC, said that to defer the amendment through a constitutional convention. Okay. And they cited three reasons. Their recent reforms, legislative reforms, initiated or passed by Congress, and we're referring to the liberalization of the retail trade, the amendments to the Philippine Service Act, the amendments to the Foreign Investments Act, and even the DOE circular allowing 100% ownership in companies engaged in renewable energies. I think what they're driving at is that let's give this a chance, no? And coupled with the declaration of President Marcos, even in his inaugural speech, let's give the some time to leave this reform some time to take root, no?
But Mr. Lim,
we must remember that we are just coming from the pandemic, and there are many things to attend to in order to let our country recover, no? To a minimal extent from the effects of the pandemic. So why not devote the time and effort there, plus the expenses, no, that are required, no, to call for a constitutional convention. I think NEDA has estimated around 14 billion and 14 billion to 28 billion of taxpayers' money for the purpose. So why not devote this effort and these finances to what is really very, very important now, Rico? So that's the point. But
okay. You've made your point. You've made your point, Mr. Lim. So when do you think is the right time then to rewrite the Constitution, especially the restrictive economic provisions? So when do you think is the right time, if we're still recovering from the pandemic and all the reasons that you mentioned?
Well, the moment that progress is already made in terms of our economic recovery, and we have the money, no, to do it, no. I myself am a strong believer in amending the Constitution, but the question is timing. As to when the right time is, I really don't know. Now, when it depends on how the government addresses the economic recovery that is badly needed by our people. I really don't know, to be very frank.
But you made one point about the high cost, no, of having in revising or rewriting the Constitution. But Mr. Lim, won't the high cost be offset eventually by new foreign investments? Because when the Constitution is rewritten and investment restrictions are lifted, more industries will open up to fresh and new foreign investors.
Yeah, in the long term it will. That's why we, the business sector, are really strong about amending the Constitution. But I think parang the way I compare it, Rico, is you just came from a very serious illness, and you need all the money that for you to recover fully, or at least to a meaningful extent, and you're now thinking of renovating your house. That's the way, in layman's terms, no?
But apart from amending the restrictive economic provisions in the Constitution, is there also fear among the members of the Justice Reform Initiative and the other business groups that by rewriting the Constitution, politicians or members of the CONAS or the CONCON could also amend the form of government, and the term limits could be amended? So this could basically open up wider and more far-reaching changes to the Constitution rather than just the economic provisions.
That's another issue against this pending bill in the House that was approved on third reading by the House. Because the mode of amendment envisioned there is constitutional convention. You know, members of the Constitutional Convention are directly elected by the people. And once they're convened as a Constitutional Convention, there's no stopping them to introduce amendments to the Constitution, even on the political provisions. Okay, so because it's plenary, and I don't think it's constitutionally permissible for Congress to say we're calling for a convention, but limit your amendments to the economic provision. I don't think that is constitutionally valid. In fact, no less than Congressman Rodriguez has said that once it's convened as a constitutional convention, they can amend or propose amendments to the political provisions of the Constitution.
We just have to wait and see and how this
I think
all
there's
plays
that fear,
out.
but among our people, not necessarily by members of the JRI or Finex, but I think that's the fear among our people.
Thank you so much.
So
thank you so much.
One issue is what mode? No? Is it Constitutional Assembly, CONAS, or CONCON? Okay, their views, it should be CONCON. I think I do recall that experts in constitutional law like Chief Justice Davide, Chief Justice Puno, former CONCON delegate Adolf Ascuna said that they prefer constitutional convention. And I think that was, but there are also pros and cons, no, in calling constitutional convention versus constitutional assembly. One thing good with constitutional assembly.
Sorry, sir, we've run out of time. I have to jump in. We would like to thank you for your insights on this issue. Justice Reform Initiative Chairman and former Finex President Francis Lim.